Hello, and welcome to Shepherds and Kings. My name is Jacob Trelaw, and I'm the founder and the host of this podcast. If this is your first time listening, or if you've tuned in before, thanks for stopping by and listening. I hope you're challenged to grow. The goal here is to find balance, which really means getting our priorities in order with the supernatural help of God. We want to, whether you're called to be a shepherd or to be a king or anywhere in between, to get our lives to where they need to be with God's help. First, thanks again for feedback, those of you who've encouraged me through a message or just communicating with me personally. Thanks for the feedback and for suggestions. And then also thanks to our sponsor, Clean 5110. If you have not yet gone and checked them out on social media and, of course, on their website, you can use the code SHEPHERD at checkout to get a discount. So please go support them and what they're all about, living a clean Christian lifestyle and supporting, of course, also the right to life. So again, go check out Clean 5110. Today we're going to look at balance from more of a traditional perspective, which is things being equal, or maybe more appropriately, two sides of the same coin. And we are going to kind of take the look at opposites, maybe is the best word for it. But abandon and prudence. And I've chosen those words specifically, but prudence, of course, being a biblical word. But abandon is not quite described in the Bible, but we'll see how it fits. And that's where we're going to start today, is abandon. Because there is a wildness of life that appeals to a man. You know, down deep, we like the unpredictable, the unknown, the great unknown, the great wilderness, the vastness of creation. There's something about that appeals to us. You know, many of us lean more towards safety and insurance and risk mitigation and layers of protection. But down deep, God built into us that we love adventure. He put it in a man's heart to love adventure and to take risks. Because, of course, God himself is a incredibly free, wild being. He is in control of everything and can do whatever he wants and answers to no one or nothing. And so he put a little bit of that inside of us. He is terribly jealous. He is immeasurable in his declarations of love. And the earth itself, it says in Psalms, trembles at his anger. I really like the practical, allegorical illustration of this in the Chronicles of Narnia. If you haven't read that, you would enjoy it. Your kids would enjoy it if they're a little bit older. But the characters in this book are talking about the king in this story, Aslan. And I'm just going to read a little bit of the story here because I love it so much. Aslan is a lion, the great lion. "Oh," said Susan, "I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion." "Safe," said Mr. Beaver. "Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you." And I love the illustration there by C.S. Lewis describing God, that he's not safe. He's not a creature that can be tamed or put in a cage, or a being that can be tamed or put in a cage, but he's good. And we have a God who calls us to live with that wildness, or again, the word that I've chosen today, abandon. The Hebrew word, hefker, is I think how you pronounce it, which stands for reckless abandonment. It describes a person who abandons a sense of identity and self, as well as attachment to or ownership of land, and instead becomes open to experience the wilderness. The suggestion to find freedom and recklessness and abandonment opens new horizons. And so basically saying that, instead of being tied to a piece of property, that this person kind of just lives off the land. Now, that's not what I'm asking you to do, but you see that with abandoning sort of an identity of self, that's what God wants us to do, to die daily. And so to give up a little bit of part of us, to live with, take no thought for the morrow is what God tells us, to live kind of like with again, the word is abandon, with not having that plan in place. Again, when Jesus said, "Take no thought for the morrow," I don't think he's telling us to live foolishly, but he's talking about trust. And that's where a lot of abandon comes from, is trust. When I've never gone bungee jumping. I feel like I would like to do it at some point. But there is a lot of trust placed in the people who put the machine together and the people who tie the rope around your feet, and you just dive head first. That's abandon, but it comes from a place of a lot of trust. And so when we live with sort of an abandon for God, not thinking about tomorrow as far as our safety necessarily, but here's what God wants me to do. I'm just going to go head first for it. I'm going to dive into it. Sometimes I find myself more like the man who is preparing for the doomsday his whole life. He buries a shelter, he stocks food. People think he's nuts. He cuts ties with the world, and he never takes the time to enjoy any social events because this apocalypse is coming. That's often how I am. I try to save money. I look at the negatives and the risks of everything, what could go wrong. I figure out, here's the downside of this particular decision. But recently, I took a look at myself and I said, you know what, I really need to, in common vernacular, loosen up a little bit. But really, again, it's letting go a little bit. And ultimately, it's putting things in God's hands, living with abandon. Part of it is spiritual, putting, those things in God's hands. But some of it is just me as a personality. But I'll tell you, you enjoy life much more when you live with abandon, when you embrace the wildness, when you have no path per se. You just go hiking without a plan, when you say, all right, let's just do this. And again, you can't necessarily live your whole life but you start to enjoy things a little bit more. I still worry. I still care too much. But at the end of the day, living with some abandon has been very good for me. I've tried new things. I've took some more risks that I might not have taken, and I've had more fun. And I've also found a deeper trust in God because of it, realizing that he will take care of me. And again, I'm not being stupid here, but living with some abandon is often a good thing. Taking that too far is, of course, a negative, but our soul needs this wildness. It's like open-ended expression of exploration, of being able to do what it is that we want to do. Again, within reason. I hope you understand that I'm not saying you can go sin or you can go do something foolish regarding your family, but there's got to be some time where so like people's reactions here during this COVID thing kind of show you that we are not meant to be cooped up. We are not creatures that are designed to be enclosed and in cages and in cubicles and offices. Like, we have to be out and doing something and enjoying God's world and creation and living with a little bit of that abandon, some off-the-cuff decisions, some exposure to something that is truly wild and vast and beyond ourselves. So again, I'm not talking about being stupid. I'm saying God built a wild world for us to take risks in. So let's not sit around and wallow in fear about what could go wrong. Our heart and soul need some abandon. John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart, talks a little bit about this. He says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, because what the world needs are men who have come alive. And I think that's a really accurate way to put that the people who make the most difference in the world around them are the people who are passionate about what they do. And of course, if you're passionate about serving God, that's what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs. Jack London, in The Turtles of Tasman, wrote, I'd rather sing one wild song and burst my heart with it than live 1,000 years watching my digestion and being afraid of the wet. And if you hearing that kind of stirs something in you, like, man, I get that. I understand being uncontained and doing something just so wild and incredibly passionate and strong and whatever it is, that we need to have a little bit of that in our lives, living with abandon. God is a being with no containment. Let's live our lives with a little bit of that. On the other side of it, we are built for self-preservation. We feel the need to take care of our family if times get tough, and that's what prudence is. Prudence is thinking in hypotheticals. Proverbs tells us, of course, the prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. And again, this is where I lean. I'm the risk mitigating, what could go wrong, will go wrong, Murphy's Law kind of guy. Poking holes in plans is fun for me. I like seeking out what could go wrong. I have a habit of, figuratively putting extra stakes in my tent, or keeping old screws just in case I need them. And the kind of guy who keeps a lot of food on hand. If you're not that kind of person, that's fine, but don't overlook the evil on the horizon. You may not see it now, but it is there. Living with prudence is important. In this kind of crazy, ridiculous world, we're told to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That's what being prudent is all about. A lot of us are harmless as doves, but we're dumb as doves too in a lot of cases. We just float along and I hope things don't go wrong. I should be fine. I'll deal with that when it comes. Well, you're not the exception. Things will go wrong inevitably. Where is your prudence? The prudent man is very biblical. Proverbs is full of illustrations about prudence. The ant in Proverbs 30. The prudent man that foreseeth evil, the prudent man that regardeth or takes reproof. What the prudent man does is live with spiritual insight. He knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two, as the farmer's insurance commercial says. It's not enough to just be aware. The prudent man thinks through the possibilities. He sees down the road. He's shrewd, like the serpent. Are you prudent in your decisions? Do you think about what the effects of your choices will be? Do you think about how to take care of those you're charged to protect before the rain starts coming down? Do you have a plan? Prudence in your finances means saving for a rainy day. Prudence in your morality means planning for a response when temptation comes. Prudence in your social life means preparing to react when someone is aggressive towards you. Prudence in protecting your family means buying a gun or getting a dog or a home alarm system, whatever it is. But you have to kind of think ahead. You have to be prudent in your life. Victor Hugo said in the book Les Mis, nothing is more imminent than the impossible. What we must always foresee is the unforeseen. Realizing that, you can't plan for everything, but you better plan for what you think you might not have to plan for. It's kind of a convoluted thought, but hopefully you get that. I heard another really good quote by Matshana Dilweo, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but be wise enough to learn from the past, shrewd enough to capitalize on the present, and clever enough to prepare for the future. That it is coming. Something's coming. Who knows what it is, but you've seen enough in history to say, just like Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. We are going to hit another economic downturn. We are going to possibly lose someone we're close to. You might get robbed. You might, lose your job. There's all kinds of things that could happen. Are you prudent enough to have a plan? It takes some effort and energy to put together a bug-out bag. It takes some effort to keep your weight down as you get older so your health bills don't pile up. It takes some energy to fix things before they completely fall apart. But that's what prudence is. It's taking some time to think in hypotheticals, imagining what could go wrong as best as you can, then preparing for it. And if you're like me, you probably understand that you are on one side of the fence or the other. You're probably a risk taker by nature, or you're on the other side, you're the risk mitigator by nature. You already know, for the most part, I imagine, if you live with more abandon or with more prudence. If you can't see any evidence of either in your life, you probably need to get off the couch and do something. Our goal, though, is to find the weaker side of whichever, we talked about the two sides of the coin here, find a way to increase both. Learn to find your wild side if you're more prudent. And again, that's what I started to do. If you're more reckless, start to think through your decisions a little bit more. And again, I'm not telling you to stop being who you are. I'm telling you to grow in your weak area. Think of it this way. Here's a couple illustrations. Abandon is skydiving. Prudence is making sure your life insurance is up to date before you go. Abandon is trying new foods. Prudence is packing the Tums. Abandon is learning a new skill. Prudence is maybe not videotaping the first time you try it. Abandon is talking to a stranger. Prudence is brushing up on a few conversation topics first. Abandon is finding the wilderness, the wildness of nature. Prudence is putting on bug spray first. Abandon is going hiking off the trail. Prudence is knowing how to read a compass. Whatever it is for you, get better in the other area. If you are so scared that you'll never try something new, learn a little bit of abandon. But if you're constantly trying something new and constantly putting people at risk or putting people in danger even, learn to find a little bit of prudence. If you are prone to too much prudence, over prudence, that again, you're the doomsday guy, you're not going to be able to prepare for everything. No one ever can. And no one...